things the right way, the opposite of right is wrong. And here's James
That's
Harden.
right.
We started the show off with
Yes.
that clip of James Harden. We can't forget the infamous clip of him in China calling Daryl
Woo.
Morey a liar, not once, but twice. The
But
man knew his
twice.
audience.
Yes.
Listen, the man knew
Yes.
his audience because he knows that China cannot stand that man. He knew exactly who to go to. Now, some tidbits of information have come out and circulated, and depending on what you believe or don't believe, I'm right in the middle. It appears that James Harden, and I said initially when this came out, it was either a trade issue or it was a money issue. The fact that Joel Embiid and PJ Tucker are both backing him up makes me believe it's a money issue. And now it came out that Daryl Morey allegedly promised James Harden money this offseason. If you remember, last offseason, he took, he restructured his deal to help the 76ers out. Apparently, Daryl Morey went ahead and, agreed to go ahead and compensate him the following season. That has not happened yet. James Harden's looking for a max deal. The 76ers said, and now Daryl Morey is a liar. So where do you stand on this on this saga? Because I will tell you where I stand after I hear your answer.
I mean, to me, it feels a little bit like the boy who cries wolf. And at this point, James Harden may be accurate. Daryl Morey probably is a liar, and there's probably a lot of shady things going on behind the scenes. But we've seen this story before. We've seen James Harden bully his way out of a contract because he's not satisfied. I feel like at this point, he's a negative Nancy. He's never going to be satisfied. So it's hard when you've got a situation where you've got teammates that are backing him up. So there's obviously some truth to what he's saying, but I think it's like, same thing, different years. So I'm kind of over the James Harden, it's always in this off season where we see that he's not happy with either money or he doesn't think he can win a championship where he's at. I would just love to know what James Harden wants, because if it's money that you're after, it doesn't seem like the Clippers are really willing to step up and pay you what you deserve. They're not super eager to get this handled and to pay you what you seem to want. If money's the issue, I'm not sure Clippers is the answer. If winning a title is what you want, you're probably in the best possible spot to make that happen. You've got an MVP caliber player on your side and you're in the Eastern Conference. I think it's a lot easier to win a championship in the Eastern Conference right now if you're a James Harden. So again, what does he want? And there probably is truth to what he's saying, but when we've heard this before, again, it feels like the boy who cried wolf every season.
No, absolutely. I agree. There's truth to what he's saying. I feel like, listen, Chris Paul had this same issue when he was in Houston. He said that meaning Daryl Morey, said he wasn't going to trade him. And then what happened? A few days later or a week later, he was in OKC. In some way, shape, or form, this is similar to the Ben Simmons situation, although obviously the foundation is different. Daryl Morey was a person mentioned in that story numerous times. So do I think Daryl Morey has a habit or a reputation of saying one thing and doing another? Yes. Does that make him a liar? Yes. Does that make him a hypocrite? Yes. Now, I can understand James Harden going into the 76ers offseason last season with good faith. Listen, I want to be here. I want to help you guys, restructure my deal, take the money and do what you need to do with it. But then what happens? Then a season happens, the playoffs happen. James Harden gives us one good game, and in game 6, game 7, completely disappears while Joel Embiid is not only dealing with an injury, comes back and is still dealing with an injury and fighting for his life, fighting for the team to his best of ability. So if you're the front office, that's the lasting memory that you have. Yeah, I know what I told you. And when you think about it in terms of morals, if I tell you something, should I honor it? Yes. Now, when you think about it in terms of business, if I tell you something and you don't hold up your end of the bargain, I know what I said, but how does that benefit me? My critique of James Harden has been he seems to still maneuver in a superstar mentality without superstar results. We can say a lot about LeBron James, and we do, but LeBron is given certain he's given a way to maneuver with his teams. He's given certain privileges because he brings results. He brings wins. He brings playoffs. He brings championships. James Harden, what have you done for me lately?
Yeah. What? I think there's a level of entitlement as well. I think, and that's kind of what you're talking about here, is that there's a level of entitlement that, yes, Daryl Morey should not have gone back on his word, but also, the league is getting more and more talented. And while he's had superstar
Right.
seasons before, hey, if I'm going to pay you right now, what am I going to get from you right now? And I think there is an entitlement of, I deserve the money. I need to have the money. He's not giving me the money. He's a liar. Well, did you hold up your end of the deal? Yeah, I think there's entitlement with Harden for sure.
So we see in that clip, the question is asked, do you think that the relationship between you and the 76ers or Daryl Morey and the 76ers rather, is beyond repair? He says, quote, I think so. Now, we've heard this story before, Liv, not with James Harden, but with athletes across the board. They say a relationship's beyond repair, and then they go ahead and get that contract and that money that they're looking for, and bygones are bygones, and money makes a lot of things better. Do you think that the 76ers cave before James Harden does? And if one of these parties caves before the other, what is the outcome? Does James Harden get his deal? Or does he get his money, but not in the deal that he's expecting? Does he get traded? If so, where is he going? How does this play out? Because it's reported he's not going to show up to training camp, and he's going to, quote, make it as uncomfortable as possible for the 76ers. So use your imagination what that means.
You know what? I think at this point, we have a lot of these leagues and management and owners really looking at these teams from a very different lens. And that is, are you worth the headache? From a business perspective, we want to win. We want to drive revenue to this franchise. We want to have it's not just about the right here, right now. It's also about the next 5-10 years of this program. I don't think James Harden is worth the headache. And I think at this point, he may have to deal with Daryl Morey being a liar, or he may have to play overseas. I think he is at a position in his career. Had he made these comments and been this frustrated with the 76ers 5 years ago, maybe he's worth the headache. But James Harden's getting older, and we're seeing a little bit of regression in his game, and we're seeing a lot of inconsistency in his game. So is he worth the headache? I personally don't think so. I think him opening his mouth was a good thing to do for the sake of the future of any franchise that is under Daryl Morey. But I think for James Harden, he may have just affected his longevity in the NBA.
Right. And listen, this is not to knock James Harden's legacy, Hall of Famer. Gonna go into not knocking that at all, but I agree with you. It's definitely, again, what have you done for me lately league. It's the recent memory league. Like, nobody remembers what you did 10 years ago. Everyone remembers what you did yesterday. And the unfortunate part is James Harden, Hall of Fame career, one of the best to ever do it, one of the best ISO ball players I've ever seen. But lately, we are seeing a James Harden who is selfish, but doesn't give results. So everyone's going to be looking into the situation, keeping an eye on the situation. Joel Embiid, I mean, the process may not be processing anymore. I don't know. He took it off his bio, but it's still on his banner on Twitter. So I don't know quite what that means.
And you bring up a great point about his legacy, because I don't want to make it sound like James Harden isn't an exceptional player, because he absolutely is. I think the biggest thing is, and it was very eye-opening for me when a while ago, before Summer League, in fact, James Harden making comments about not wanting to stay in Philly. Why weren't teams lining out the door to acquire a guy like James Harden? When you look at his resume and his accomplishments and what he has done for teams that he has been on, there should have been plenty of teams in this league going, okay, I want James Harden. He wants out of Philly. Let's figure out how to make this work. And there weren't teams like that. In fact, he expressed interest in Houston, and Ime Udoka said it's not going to work here. So to me, very eye-opening, very telling that you've got very little teams stepping up to acquire Harden, and the teams that he is showing interest in don't really seem to be reciprocating that same energy. So again,
it's one-sided, Liv. And I mean, listen, you mentioned Houston. Let's mention the Clippers real quick. I mean, could the Clippers utilize James Harden? Absolutely. Do they need him? No, but it would be, James Harden has this grass is greener mentality where he's always looking across the fence and seeing what looks like the easier, what looks like the sexier, what looks like the better option. But let's call a spade a spade. Kawhi Leonard is a question mark. Paul George is a question mark. Always. There's always going to be something that happens either with both of them or one of them at some point in the season. If you are the Clippers, you saw what James Harden did when Joel Embiid went down. And what he did was basically a lot of nothing. Is that somebody you want to go ahead and trade players for and move pieces around? Because you know, when his back is against the wall, if it's not going his way, he doesn't care. And if
Mm-hmm.
it is going his way, you can't always depend on it. I don't do
Right.
that. I don't blame them for
Right.
not making that move. So
Of
we will
course.
see how this plays out if James Harden's in a uniform come the start of the season.
Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.